Welcome to the Low and Slow podcast.
We're your girls, Crystal and Laken. If you press play today, trust, you made the right decision.
And know whenever you're listening to this, it's exactly the right time.
We invite you to pull up a seat to the conversation, get curious about your current perspective,
and lean in for the opportunity to see yourself in another woman's story.
We created That Girl Magic because we've been where you are.
Here, the talk is real and the breath is steady.
Let's get into your next mindset shift.
Welcome back to the Low and Slow podcast. Laken and Crystal here, and today we are talking about why asking for help feels so damn hard and why some of you would rather rearrange your entire life and lose sleep and quietly spiral than text one person and say, "How can you help me?" And that person is also me.
Yeah, so if this sounds like yourself, which honestly for most women, it's going to sound a little bit like all of us, maybe at a season in our life, or maybe this is you right now. Maybe you're listening to this today and you're like, damn, I really could have asked for help today. And sometimes we need to actually just say that out loud of like, I could have used help there. Because needing people isn't just about that feeling of it being like inconvenient. Like sometimes it's like, this is something that can feel very unsafe. And I know this very well, right? I personally don't like to ask for help. Now there's sometimes, yes, when I need it, but where that unsafety comes from, right, is because our body is saying like, nope, don't do it. Like, no, don't do it. It's fine. Like, I'll just do it myself, right? It's fine. I don't need to ask. If I'm being like, I don't want someone to know that I actually need help.
Yeah, or I don't want to bother anyone, or if I ask, I'll owe something in return, or a lot of it is like, I don't want to look weak or messy or needy.
Yeah. All of those. So we want, this is something we want to let you know up front that you're not any of those things actually, right? That is just how your nervous system is responding. And it's not that you're bad at receiving or that you're too independent. But a lot of you are wired to equate that needing someone else, means that there's risk in that.
Yeah, and I wanted to speak to that because that's a message that's coming through a lot, I think, in our space, in our industry of like women being told, like, oh, you just aren't able to receive, or, there's hyper independence there that you need to heal. And like, while those things may be true, I think labeling yourself in that way isn't necessarily helpful all the time. And so we just want to call out like, okay, well, what's actually feeding that pattern? Can we get intimate with that? Can we grow some awareness around it and get curious with it and be able to try to reframe it a little bit, right? And so like the goal is by the end of this episode that you'll understand why it's so hard to ask for help, and you'll have a simple way to practice receiving more support without feeling like you have to abandon yourself in the mix.
Yeah. And the real issue here too, like, isn't the help itself. It's the vulnerability, being able to get yourself there to even say, I need it or I'm requiring it, right? So many women, it's like, we can know what everyone else needs, but do we know what we need, right? And sometimes, yes, that is that freaking support. That is that help. Okay. So let's talk about the vulnerability. In the moment, when you have to admit that you do need this help, right? This means you're being vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there. You're letting someone else see you. You're becoming visible of like, I'm not just okay. I need some support here. Or, you're allowing them to see in your inner moments of uncertainty, which, they're uncomfortable, right? But you have to allow other people to see you in order for them to help you. So for a lot of women, this uncertainty is where a lot of these other feelings show up, like shame, right? Like guilt, right? If I'm being seen, not having it all together, right? What happens to my value? What happens if I allow other people to see me this way? What happens when like they see me, a part of like how I see myself?
Yeah, and asking puts you in that exact spot.
Hi, Bodes. Yeah. Asking puts you in that exact spot to be seen, right? So, and the thing is like, this is like the wild part is that we can do so many hard things, but the hardest thing, like you can handle pressure, you can handle all the shit from, carry the whole load. But in being like that strong one, the moment that you need something, the hardest thing to do is ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thing, like asking ultimately is like an act of trust. It's putting a little bit of that trust that you would have it within yourself to say, and maybe it's a little bit of power too. Like, okay, I am trusting you, or I'm giving you the opportunity to see that, I'm needing something, or giving you a little bit of power to maybe, if you know that I need something, that you won't use it against me.
Yeah. Like, can I offer the leverage and not assume that you're going to hurt me with it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if you've ever had someone use your need as leverage later, like they threw it back in your face, or they made it into a thing, or they made you feel guilty about it, then that's where your nervous system learned, like, oh, never again. I'm not doing that ever again.
Right. AKA the default pattern of like, okay, I'm going to revert back to this because that's all it knows. Right. And again, the nervous system wants to keep you safe. So the fact that this is happening, right? I can throw in a very real personal, like what this has personally been for me is like, yeah, that is what it is. It's like, okay, if someone knows that, I need help, or if I'm allowing someone to see me like this, will they use it against me? And if you grew up in a household, maybe where you were dismissed, maybe where you were judged, or you were, like punished for having a need, or maybe that need just went unmet, right? Because whoever didn't have the capacity for it. Asking is how this pushes up against the old wound, because you're not reacting to what's actually happening right now in front of you. You're reacting to all this past evidence that's been collected of needing people that weren't actually safe at the time.
Yeah. So, like, for example, if I grew up in a household where any time that I received aid from a primary caretaker, it was leveraged against me later, right? So if I accepted help with something, then at a later date, it would be, oh, well, I did that for you, so you need to show up for me now. Or remember when I did that thing for you, like you should just be grateful. It's like when it's leveraged against me in a way that makes me feel less than, or it's a way to enforce a power dynamic, then that tells me that, okay, well, that means that it's not safe to accept help because it's not genuinely help, right? It's not something that was authentically given. It was something that was conditional. Exactly. And so our nervous system logic is like control equals safety. And then that's where we get like that strong woman identity, right? So this is just nervous system math. And a lot of you are running this equation on repeat. But if control equals certainty equals safety, then that means that uncertainty will equal danger. So if I do it myself, if I avoid disappointment, if I handle everything, I don't have to deal with someone dropping the ball, right? If I don't have to rely on anyone, then no one can let me down. And I am intimately familiar with this. It literally makes me physically uncomfortable to rely on other people because of that conditioning of the way that I understood what it meant if I had to rely on other people, right? And when I was let down, when I did extend myself, when I was vulnerable, and then I was let down, it taught me that that also wasn't safe. So again, this isn't a character flaw. It is a strategy that your nervous system is implementing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that strategy, like the thing is if that strategy honestly probably worked very well for you at one point, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm still doing all the things, right? And I'm still like, because I have this strategy in place, like I can handle everything until we become the one that is carrying everything, and we become the thing that's the cost, right? So it's not to say
also like it did work. Right? Like it allowed me to be super independent. It allowed me to succeed. It allowed me to get all the things that I wanted to get, but it did cost me, right? And it continues to cost me in places where I'm not willing to work on that wound. Is like, it costs me in softness. It costs me in connection. It costs me in being able to receive support, right? And where it costs me the most is in relationship. And so because the role of being like, I'm the capable one, turns into this identity that I'm embodying. Identity turns into armor, and then the armor over time turns into exhaustion because it gets really heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's the thing of why women think that this is fine, because it has worked for you, right? Until it doesn't. And then when it doesn't anymore, then we start to confuse what we have built, that strategy, that independence, with safety. And so then it's like, oh, well, I'm independent. I can handle everything on my own, right? I'm healed. I got it like that, right? But a lot of the time it's not independence. It's also self-protection. Similar to like when we were talking about, boundaries, right? But then it's emotional avoidance, right? So it's a guardedness that says, it puts up a wall of like, well, I'm the only one that will be able to have me like this, right? Which then puts a block of like, I'm not allowing someone else to have me like this. And it's not that you don't want to, you do, but it's like, that's where the strategy has been built from when it was working. And that's the outdatedness.
Yeah. And you didn't choose independence because it felt very freeing, right? You chose it because it felt safer than being disappointed. And so we by default go into that, well, I'd rather be able to feel like I can do everything for me than be disappointed by others. And then you start living like a one woman island, and then you call it strength. Like, I'm the strong woman. I can do it all. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, you can be strong. But it's like, you don't have to be alone. Right. It's like,
but you will be. You will be.
Yeah, you will be. It's like,
if
okay.
That's the belief.
Right. If that's the belief of like, I'm strong, I can handle everything. But then what is that actually? That doesn't allow any room for anyone else too.
Right? Well, that's the hard part too, is because most women that feel that way, that have that hyper independence, is like, what they really want is to be able to be held, to be able to be supported, to be able to receive what they were not able to receive before, but they don't know how to get it.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. They don't know how to get it because they haven't yet created safety there. Right. And so it's not actually that they don't know how, right? They're just operating off of that previous pattern that has only shown them, well, if this is what I've built and it's giving me all of this, right? If I do something different, what if all of this goes away? Right. It's like, then it's going to be gone, but that's not, it's how can I start to build safety and still being able to have all of those things, but then also build safety in the other area of what I'm actually want. So it's like those hidden beliefs is the things that are running the show. And so let's talk about like what that looks like once you can hear that inner dialogue or like that script in your head or that past belief or story, right? So that you can stop obeying it, right? So that you can notice as you listen to some of these, like go with the one that hits that shit first. Like maybe you feel a little tinge in your stomach or feel something in your chest. So first one, I don't want to impose. You've heard probably a lot of women say that. Oh no, I don't want to impose. Translation here is like, well, my needs are a burden. Which it's like this, some of these translations, which is why we do this with you guys in session. It's like, we do this to get accurate. We do this to check the validity. And if that is hitting something in you, that's okay. That's a place we need to stay, where we need to work at. Another one, they'll judge me. Translation, right? Again, I'm lovable when I'm put together, right? When I have it all together, when I have the mask on. They'll reject me. Translation, needing people makes me unsafe, right? Fear of rejection. This one comes up a lot for clients.
Yeah.
If I ask, I'll owe them, right? That means taking their help. Translation, taking their help equals debt.
Yeah, the scorekeeping.
It's easier if I just do it. And then the translation of that would be, I trust me more than I trust others or people, someone other than myself. So, and like I want to normalize these. Like if you're listening, these don't just, again, come out of nowhere. This is not the first time you've said them. Like, again, if you go back, we didn't just wake up one day saying, I'm just going to believe this. These are deep rooted beliefs, and they're usually like inherited or they're modeled or they're learned. These are learned behaviors, beliefs, somewhat in the same.
Yeah, they're strategies. They're not inherent personality traits. Like, you're not born with it. It's probably in someone else's voice, honestly, when you analyze it.
Yeah. So if help ultimately, I think, and like a lot of women can relate to this, if help ultimately came with strings, you learn that when there was help, there was going to also be a cost, right? When there's not help, there's a cost, right? But if help didn't show up consistently, then you learn that needing people also meant it was a disappointment or maybe like a failure, right? There's like these negative emotions around it of like, you got like shame or guilt, right? You got shamed for having emotions or for having needs, or you learned like, I need to hide. I need to not be seen, so that you can function like the thing you needed to be, the CEO, the mom who did it all. So it's like asking for help is almost that like emotional nakedness. It's putting you out there. It's allowing you to be vulnerable.
Yeah. And another sneaky belief that it's like, it usually comes back around, all of those feed into, if I ask, I'm failing, right? That means that I'm not doing it right, or I'm not enough. And needing support means that you weren't strong enough, or you didn't plan enough, or you didn't try hard enough, right? It's like, I should have just been able to make it work on my own. And it's like, that is exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exhausting. And that this is like some of what that inner dialogue sounds like internally. It's like that self battle with yourself. And these beliefs ultimately keep you in a cycle of like over responsibility, like over functioning, where you're constantly trying to earn like your right to put it down, or like your right to rest, your right to, like once I get all this done, then this can happen.
Yeah, so I want to talk about why you might trust some people but not others. And this is where it gets interesting, because you might be able to ask like a partner or a parent maybe, but asking friends or peers, like someone that you want to be perceived well by, a lot of times, that's the hard category, because the fear there is, if they see my need, then my perceived value drops. The way that they see me, they don't get to see me portrayed as this like person that has it all together. This happens a lot, like in the workplace or in friendships.
Yeah. Yeah. And like she said, it's so common for women who operate at that high capacity, right? Who are, even in like a who are in a position of authority, or just in hierarchy somewhere in public, whether that's at your job, whether that's at whatever it is, if you're leading
or just the way you want to show up on social media, like is your public perception.
Right. So like, you're the one that people come to. You're the one that, who's always like, okay, who has everything all together. It's like the idea of saying I'm not okay feels like you're breaking this identity that you've built, right? It's taking away from my authority if I show people actually how I'm feeling. And honestly, like this resonates a lot for me. I've come to learn that actually my authority is in being vulnerable. My authority is in being able to express what I'm feeling, being able to not just put on this mask like you have it all together and I'm not human and I don't deal with the same things that everyone else deals with, right? So a lot of women don't feel safe being messy in like friendships or in relationships because there's this unspoken like competitive energy, and it's like, I think this is where there causes an imbalance in friendships or an imbalance in relationships of like one over the other, right? So it's like, if I'm struggling, or if I'm showing up as this, right, then I'm losing, or I'm less than.
Yes, definitely.
So if this resonates with you and you're hearing this, right, and you've been telling yourself, I just don't have anyone, like no one's there for me, sometimes it's not that you don't. Sometimes it's that you won't let them get close enough to support you. And that's probably like the biggest gut punch hearing that, right? It's like, if you think about, a lot of people are wanting connection. A lot of people are wanting, the depth, the intimacy, right? But then here they are, when someone gets close enough, they're like, I'm gonna stiff arm you. I'm gonna put you over there, right? And I feel like every woman knows a flavor of this in her own language. And we're going to give you a practice to help slow down that spiral and like allow you to implement some things for where you really want to change.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. We're pausing and breathing. It's crazy.
Okay, so the moment that we want to change something here is when the moment that you realize you need help, right? And here's when the reflex comes in of like, I'll just do it, right? So we're going to slow you down and allow your nervous system to get involved. Because if not, right, if we're just going 0 to 100, that's where we get hijacked. That's where we start reacting, right? Rather than being proactive about like what we want to do next. We got to get the nervous system involved. So step 1, name what is happening. Right? Note and name. I feel like I say this till I'm blue fucking in the face. And I don't say this for any reason. Like I say it because it is not normal to name sometimes what you're feeling, especially to yourself. Right? Yeah. So, name what's happening. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It's just honest. It's true, right? I feel this. I feel exposed. I feel embarrassed. I feel, like a burden. I'm scared I'll be judged or rejected, right? So you're naming what's happening in real time. Step 2, can you reality check the story? Something so simple of like, is that fucking true? A lot of the times it's not, bro. It's not, right? So let's just say it's needing help. Needing help doesn't mean I'm failing. Asking doesn't make me weak. It makes me fucking human. I can be capable and still be supported, right? Like reality check. Like don't just assume.
Yeah, if it helps, because I know sometimes like a lot of women whose inner critic are some real big bitches. They may be like, yeah, that is true. You know what I mean? Like they'll combat that. And so it's like, can you reframe it and be like, if my child were saying this to me, if my best friend was saying this to me and they asked if it was true, what would my response be, right? If I'm not willing to have that grace with myself in this moment, can I take it a step further?
Right. And this is also where, when I do have those clients that are telling me, and I get it, like if I'm not going to say my mind's never been there, right? Sometimes we have some fucked up thoughts, but it's not just, is it true? Like, yeah, it's true because I feel that way. No, that's where we have to separate the thoughts and the feelings. Like it may feel true. Well, then go back to step 1 and note and name what's happening, right? But is it actually true, right? Needing help doesn't mean that you're failing. Like, it's like, we got to take out the change equals failure, like these hard, like who's making up these rules? Like who's making up these definitions? All right. Step 3, choose a response instead of reacting, because reacting will look like shutting down, doing it yourself, pushing people away, resenting everyone, saying like isolating. That's also a part of it, right? It's like we're isolating, but then we're wanting someone there for us. If you're doing something, but then what you really want is the opposite of that, this is how you know you're reacting. Right?
Yeah. Because you don't have to be in this like Zen state to ask that question, right? You just need to be calm enough to be able to make a clean request instead of spiraling into a shame monologue of like shitting on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're using those words, if those are baked into your language, you most likely are doing this. So we can catch ourselves with those. So over explaining is you usually trying to manage, your perception, right? And it's you trying to secure a yes, or like validation or something from someone externally, because maybe you're struggling to give that to yourself internally. And the new identity is like, well, I can simply ask, or I am still safe even when I ask, right? And it's reinforcing that, like, even though I'm feeling this, I'm still doing this, right?
Yeah. So now after we're able to access that reframe, then we move to collecting evidence, right? We want to build strong evidence to support this new identity that we're working to embody, because your nervous system doesn't change from just listening to a podcast episode. I always say it's not a switch, it's a dial, right? So it changes from those steady reps over time. You don't go from, I never ask, to, oh, I'm fully supported, right? Within a day. You build it just like strength training, just like small reps, and you have to meet yourself where you're at. So let's do like a 7-day challenge, and once a day, the goal would be for 7 days to ask for something tiny, just something very small, a small token of help.
Yeah. And I want to emphasize when we talk about the embodiment, right? Some of these things are like practical things, but the embodiment is what gets your nervous system involved, right? So if you're skipping that part, it's like, this is where we don't just ask you to say this a couple times and then just expect it to land. Like, your body needs the evidence. It needs the proof. It needs the trust. And so tiny here is the medicine, right? Like when we talk about the low viable rep, like something small, we're not trying to shock your nervous system. We're trying to teach your body, like, this is okay, right? Kind of like when you're introducing food to a baby, right? You're not about to give it a whole carrot stick. No, you're starting with the mass shit. That's like little bites. Here you go. Do the airplane,
Yeah.
right? You got to give little
digest?
bites. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So some examples would just be like asking somebody, oh, hey, can you grab that for me? Like, it sounds really dumb, guys. It sounds dumb, simple, but this is like just getting into the habit of asking for something and then being able to receive it. Can you take this errand off my hands, right? Can you send me the link for that thing that you shared that you liked? Can you handle dinner for me because I'm super overwhelmed right now? Can you watch the kids for 20 minutes so I can reset and like decompress, right? And the rules behind this challenge are that you ask clearly, you do not over explain yourself, giving a million reasons why you need the thing. You do not apologize 12 million times for having needs. And if they say yes, you let them do the thing for you that you asked for. Those are the only rules. And I know it sounds simple, but it is not easy in practice because we're overcoming something that's very deeply ingrained.
Yeah. And most things that are really easy, right, are not always simple, right? It's like, we have to acknowledge that, like, this is sometimes the hardest.
Or opposite. Things that are simple are not easy.
Yes, that's what I meant to say. Yes. Things that are simple are not always easy. Yes. And that this is why it's usually the hardest part and where people get frustrated of like, it's so simple. I don't know why can't I do it? Blah, blah, blah. Right. But it's like, it's actually letting yourself, or actually no, letting someone else really follow through with what it is without you taking it back. Cause that's what's hard. It's like, oh, well, no, like abort mission. Like, I'm going to take it back. No, do it. Right. Like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, just ask for it and then walk away if you have to. Walk away, distract yourself. Like, the thing is some of you are willing to ask, but then immediately go, oh, never mind. It's okay. I'll just do it. It's fine. I got it.
Or if it's not going to be your way, you'll say, never mind. I'll just do it.
Yes, I have. Yes. I have seen this. I've seen this girl cringe over. It's like, if it's okay. I got it. But I'm like, I'm doing it right now. Right. Again, this is like a funny example, but like, seriously, when you do that, then your nervous system is saying, well, I don't trust this, right? I don't trust that someone will do it right, right? And this is also where when you start to practice this need, and this is really nice, like in friendship dynamics, in relationship where you're practicing this, where it's like, I am practicing this need, right? And once you can start asking for it, then you can get even better at asking for exactly what you want. And then it's the cheat code here of like, if Laken asked me to do something and I know how she would like it done, right? I can do that to the best of my ability, right? But I also know I can go out of my way to do something maybe how she would like to do it, because I know that's what's going to make her feel good about accepting it, right? So it's sometimes where it's like, as you start to have this practice of where, okay, I can ask for what I need, and then I can also refine what I need in a more direct way so that I can actually get what I want. So it's building the trust through evidence and allowing people to show up, allow people to be good, allow people the opportunity to be just as good at something as you are. Because how do you know if you never let them?
Yeah. Or just that done is better than perfect, right? And so like the goal doesn't have to be perfection. The goal in this case scenario is just the proof, just collecting that evidence that like I can need things from other people or I can receive things from other people and still be safe.
Yeah. Yeah, safety's the big thing here. Why? Because your nervous system is involved. Okay, so let's talk about how to ask without the shame spiral. I think the scripts are working good here, so let's give them some more scripts, because when you're on one, when your nervous system is having that response, when you're activated, like it's almost like I forget English. Like I don't even actually know what I need right now. Like I'm lost in the sauce. So
yeah, so like a basic script would be like, hey, could you help me with fill in the blank, right? I'm practicing receiving support, like we mentioned, like naming the thing that you're working on, right? That makes you relatable, it makes you human, it doesn't make you dumb. Okay. And also saying like, if you can't, no worries, just tell me, right? So that way we're also removing heaviness of expectation in that scenario.
Yeah, she's really good about saying that last one. She'll ask me and I'm like, she's like, just let me know if you can't, right? Because then I'll do it. And it's like, okay, bet. I will let you know if I can. And that's also permission too, especially, I mean, just there's a majority of people who listen to our podcast are women. Like, I think it is refreshing when you can have that permission, because sometimes I know I struggle to give that to myself of like, oh, I can't do the thing she's asking me to do, right? But it's like, it's permission. So, and in partnership, maybe these can look like, couple that I love, or is like, I own blank. Like I'm taking ownership over, like, this is what I'm doing. I feel whatever it is. I need whatever it is. Can you take whatever it is this week? Right? Like, can we start to identify what it is that we need or what we're feeling, and then take ownership. Like we have to also let the other person know like what's on our plate. Like so much of this happens within relationship because it's like we're expecting the other person to be a mind reader, and we don't know until we tell them, right? They don't know until we tell them. So allow it to just be clean. These one little liners, that this is not like an emotional like battle or like court case, right? Like this is just like, hey, I need this. It's not a what do they call it when people are getting divorced? Like a back and forth.
A deposition.
That like
you're not on trial.
That. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So like to flesh that out a little bit, right? It's like, okay, I own that we have to have dinner every single night of the week, right? I feel overwhelmed with having to come up with what we're going to have for dinner each day. I need help coming up with ideas for dinner throughout the week. Can you take 3 days this week?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Or like, I feel exhausted after, like, let's say you have a busy day on Wednesdays. Like, I feel exhausted on Wednesdays. Can you do that? Can you do Wednesdays from now on? I got everything else, or whatever it is.
Yeah. And if they can't, that's not rejection, right? It's just information. So that's the other part of like not taking that personally. Like you're allowed to build a support web and not rely on one person for everything. So if that person isn't able to help you, is there another way you can outsource, which may look like asking a friend for a meal prep delivery service that they use, if you know that they use one, or asking for suggestions, or asking somebody, hey, what did you make for dinner this week? I'm out of ideas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also the support web too. Like, I think we get comfortable with our partners. We're talking about in partnership there, in love. Like, it's like that where the dependency comes from, but it's like, there's also, especially with women, right? There are things within your female friendships that you can ultimately be getting that maybe it's not that your partner can't give them to you, but maybe of what you're looking for can be received from a friend, right? Can be received from, I don't know, I'm not going to say a coworker or something, but just like having it doesn't have to fall all on one person.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the last piece that I want to mention is that when you don't ask, you silently carry instead, right? And what you're carrying is more often than not resentment. And then you either blow up or you shut down, right? I always say resentment is like a weed, right? Like it roots very deeply and it grows very fast. And it's something that's difficult. Like if you're just trying to trim the top of it, girl, that
It's
ain't
like
gonna do
shaving.
it,
That
right?
shit gonna show up in 2 days. Okay.
Yeah. So, and that is resentment is a very strong signal that you're under supported and you're probably not voicing your needs.
Bar. Bar. Write that one down. Pause this wherever you are and write it down. Okay. It's also a sign, resentment is also a sign where you've been trying to be the strong one, hold it all together, show everyone that, you're not, like, you're not letting anyone down, and you're not letting anyone actually love you in the ways that you actually need. So something that you can do here is doing like a weekly, doing like an audit with yourself. Like, what am I, maybe at the end of your work week, right? Or maybe on Sundays, right? Before you go into your next week, can I just observe what happened over this last week? And what am I holding on to that I haven't named, right? Those 3 steps of naming it. What do I actually secretly wish someone will do or notice, right? That maybe I haven't asked for. What's one clean ask that I can make, right? Come up with one that resonates most with you. What's one clean ask I can make that, before the resentment builds? Like, where can I catch myself? And before that happens, what is an ask I can make?
Yeah. And again, at the end of the day, the takeaway is that we're not expecting you to become someone that asks for help automatically overnight, right? You just need to take one clean action step and start to collect that evidence that allows you to prove that you are allowed to need things and that can still feel safe in your body over time.
Yeah. And the more that you ask, right? I will say I used to not feel safe asking about anything, right? But now I'm like, oh no, I need to ask. Like, maybe, and again, we're not saying ask to when you ask too much, but it's like, it does get easier when you start to give yourself the evidence. It does get easier when you start to reinforce that I can ask and still be safe. Like, I don't have to keep doing things how I did them before. So we encourage you to do the 7-day challenge, to take that challenge, to audit your weeks and start to implement something different. Because if we don't, we're going to still be getting what we've been doing, right? There's something that's not working. We get to make a change here. So
yeah, for example, like one of my clients, like that was one of the translations that we got to at the end, right? Because she's one of many women that I work with that were struggling with this. And we got to a place where it was like, oh, I could see that my faith in people grows when I allow myself to know them, right? Like, I can give people the opportunity to show up for me, but I have to allow myself to need them. I have to give them the opportunity.
Yes. Right? All right. So let's talk about a time where, let's just like throw in some of our own examples or something that resonated with us, where like a time where we asked for help, and why it felt so hard or why it felt so unsafe. Because I think a part of, when we first started this podcast is we want women to be able to see it's like, we've been where you are. We are where you are. Right. And, maybe there's something that you hear through that each one of us has been through that you resonate very much. And how do we allow people to see themselves in our story, right, without us sharing this? So a time where I asked, and I'll just go first, like, if you're good with that, a time that I asked for help, was I was at a breaking point. Personally, I made a huge decision, to not have a child, and I had to bear the help of, this was my own mom, of moving home and being able to, I hadn't moved home since I left for college. So it was like, it was super hard for me to swallow the fact that that was happening, right? Because what did that mean about me? Right. And then B, that was just like, if I'm struggling to accept help from my own mom, right? I had been struggling to accept help from anyone, right? And I think back to that time in my life where, I was with a partner at that time and I didn't allow him to help, and I worked all the jobs and, ran myself into the ground, right? But it's like, I just think back to that time where it just felt so hard. And if the very person who, I felt safe with, or who I had love with, right, being my own mother, right, it was hard for me to accept that. I just see at that point in my life, like just where I was at. And if I can think back to that time, it's like, I mean, I did take the help. I did move, I did regroup, right? And I did wind up moving out again, but I know why that was such a struggle, because of how unsafe it felt. Like some of those stories that were going on in my head. Well, what does it mean about me? Right. This was after I graduated. This is when I was, should have been well into my career. This was, did it mean I failed if I was 20 something and I had to move home for a little bit? Right. So I think like just in that example, asking for help or even really like receiving the help is like, they're both hard, but there was something that the safety that I created for myself at that point in time, it really was like a test of like, how safe was that? Right. And how safe was, what I was telling myself, right? That I was strong, that I handled all the things, that I, was successful, if that meant I had the place on my own and like doing all the things, and that, ultimately the thing I was needing was some support. I was needing some of that load to be taken off. And, I think whether someone can relate to a time like that in their life or not, it's just the coming back to what we need in the moment. Like I needed some of the weight to be taken off. I needed to, and I did, when I knew the need that I had and I was struggling to articulate that to someone else, that's when, for example, my mom stepped in of like, let me help you this. And then it's like the receiving can come in. Right. So I think it's like, I just think back to that example because that was a huge time where I struggled to do that. And I think, I built that safety over time, but it was like unveiling and peeling back all the layers of the onion, that even had created this like, armor of like, no, I don't need the help. I got it. Until like you're at a point where it's like, girl, you need the help. Go ahead and take it. It doesn't mean anything about you, and, receive. And I will say that was like a turning point for me to also like, it's like, I think what it hits up against is your ego, your pride, right? Of like, if I take the help, then,
it shifts the way that you want to see yourself.
Right. Right. And I think like that's the important thing here too, that could be applied in so many other, scenarios, because it's like when it does press against the ego or press against this narrative of how you see yourself, like, okay, that's okay. You how you see yourself can start to change. And,
well, sometimes it takes something big like that. It takes like a big ego death to be able to reorganize the way that you see yourself, or to be able to view it through a different lens, or be open to the possibility of seeing it differently and saying like, oh, like she's not so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right. And it's like, yeah, she's not so bad. Or like, oh, I can get to know her in a way that I haven't before because I had this experience. Right. It's like, if I didn't take the help, right, how would I ever know what that could look like on the other side? And I think that's important because you're going to go through ego deaths. You're going to go through death and rebirths, transformations. I mean, majority of women we work with are in a program where they're transforming something, and part of their ego is having to die because of what they've done thus far is not it's not working. So I think, in just that personal example, I want to be able to share that in a way that's like, when it presses up against the ego and it starts to feel unsafe, is that your ego talking, or is that just a new edge that you're pushing, that you may find out more about yourself when you can allow yourself to just jump and allow yourself to go against that edge and see like, okay, well, I created safety when I was over here. And on the other side of it, I also have the opportunity to create safety here as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say for me in general, it's always been really difficult to ask for help. I don't put as much emphasis on it when it comes to friends, or maybe it's just not as apparent to me when it comes to like friendships or colleagues or work relationships, because I'm not forced to, right? until someone highlights it. And then I'm like, oh, well, it kind of is what it is. And I'll tend to lean into that a little bit or say like, okay, I'm willing to play in that. Where it's most difficult for me is in relationship with my partner. And so what that mimics for me is a wound with my mother, right? Where the person that I should have been able to rely on by default, that was not available to me. And so if that's the case, if that's the reality, then how could I ever actually rely on somebody in a big way, right? So it's like with little things, asking for help, I've gotten much better about, but when it comes to big things, that's where I really, really struggle because it feels very, very high risk. And so that has kept me from being able to receive my partner's provision and protection, because the way that I viewed it was, oh, well, if he's trying to do these things for me, that's that leverage, right? Then it must be an attempt to control. It must be an attempt to manage me or to leverage something against me, meaning if he were to do this for me, it's going to be thrown back in my face later, because that was the pattern that I was used to. Something that really stands out to me, and it probably stands out, I say probably consciously, but it stands out because I believe it was the last time that I ever allowed myself to rely on my mother in any way. And it was a big lesson for me. And it was my freshman year at college. And we had made an agreement that she would help me in addition to the financial aid that I was applying for and receiving. And so we made an agreement about an amount that she would contribute, and I would have to match that by working my way through school. And this was after the first semester of my freshman year. So it was a new scenario for me. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to learn lessons the hard way. But when the second semester started, my tuition was not paid. I paid my portion that came from my financial aid and the amount that I agreed to, and the rest of the balance was not paid. And when I attempted to reach out to her, I was ghosted essentially, and come to find out she was on a trip out of the country and was unavailable, right? My classes got dropped, and I had to figure it out. And that was a big wake up call for me, that like, oh, like the person that, it wasn't the first time that she had let me down, but it was the first time that it had that big of a consequence, where it felt so high risk that, okay, this ingrained that I can't rely on anybody to put me in a position where I can lose this big.
Right. The livelihood that we hear a lot of women talk about that, right? This affects my livelihood. I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Right. And so then that gets like fixed in place of, I'm never going to allow that to happen again. And we talk about this a lot, where when we work with women in the story work that we do, and we're trying to identify these lived experiences, these memories, these stories that form these core beliefs about ourselves, it's almost always for women, because we're safety seeking beings, right? It's these stories where they've been flagged by our nervous system because we're either trying to prevent it from happening again at all costs, or we're trying to fix it. And unfortunately, those stories put us in a very disempowered position in that narrative. And it doesn't actually ultimately serve us. And that's why we look at it. That's why we look at the words that we use and the language that we use to describe ourselves in those stories. And can we be open to an alternative perspective, right? So it's like, at the root of that, I had a fear of losing something that was very important to me because I had to rely on somebody else, right? But if I use that to perpetuate a story that says I can never rely on anybody, then I will also never be able to receive anything that's going to be able to amplify more than what I can give myself.
Right. Right. So like essentially here too, like when we're talking about this, I think it's like in our very own examples, we can identify like, because there was a feeling, right? The fear, right? And then, what we talk about all the time, like we had an experience, and then there was a story, there was a narrative that was created where these limiting beliefs lie. And so that's why it's so important. Like all the time when clients are like, well, I've gone, that's old, right? Of like, I've healed from that, all of this. It's like, we don't bring those back up to change what happened, but we want to take a look at what you have been telling yourself about yourself from that experience, because that's the thing that has been held on to. That's the thing that has, the ball that's in the brain and inside out that has grown roots from it, right? It's like the memory bank.
Yeah. The core memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, in that specific example, what we mentioned, there's a cost associated with that identity, right? So like that core belief of the way that I had to show up for myself, or the way that I was not allowed to rely on other people, that has kept me from receiving the support that I ultimately want in relationship. It's kept me from being able to access the level of connection that I actually want. And that is something that I'm actively working towards repairing now, right? So we can save ourselves so much if we can start that repair sooner, because it's not that these things aren't going to happen. They're always going to happen. This is just a part of growing as a human being. But when we can create the awareness as early as possible, then we're able to start that repair, and we're able to view it differently and give ourselves the opportunity to get different reps and to build different patterns.
Yeah. And like with having the awareness, then comes the ownership of like, look, what does it mean about you? What did you decide from that experience that meant about you? Of like, that's the shit that we need to take ownership of. All the other details in the story of whatever it is, they're important, but it's like the thing that I told myself, nobody else told that to me but me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's what we get to discern.
Oh yeah. It'd be really easy for me to be like, she did that to me. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, and yes, that can be true, but it also doesn't serve me. Mm-hmm. Right. And it also doesn't allow me to get the thing that I ultimately want, which is the support, which is to be able to rely on another person. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's like, I can live in that. Yeah. And it'd be very easy to live in that.
The projection, right? She did that to me.
Right. But ultimately, then, I have to look at that cost that's associated with it. And really, if what I really want is that level of partnership, then that's what I have to work towards. I have to start to release that old belief, and I have to be willing to dip a toe in the one that says, okay, people can show up for me and care for me and not disappoint me. People can support me, and that's worth the risk.
Yeah. And then I'm welcoming those things, right? Whether it's in relationship, whether it's in friends, it's also the energy that you're putting out there. It's what you're speaking to yourself. It's kind of like when you were saying that, it's like having this big, balled up fist. And then it's like, we slowly have to go like this, right? Of like, it's like, oh, I want it so bad. But then I'm like, I need to like open it up to allow it to even land, right? Because it's like the very thing that we have been protecting and like holding tight and holding on to. It's like, we're not actually, you do that for, like you said, a while, right? And then it's like, it's also, the more we stay in that place, that victim mentality, then that until we take ownership of it, until we become aware, until we start to try different, right? And until we start to, give ourselves the opportunity to even try on something new, right? That I can allow people to show up for me. It's like, if not, it's just going to stay fixed, right? Like we got to be able to dip our toe. Nobody's telling you jump right into the cold, freezing water, but can you just temperature check it, right? And
it's like, I can show up for me and do it my way and have it exactly how I want it all the time. Mm-hmm. And I can, I can do bad all by myself. Mm-hmm. All by myself. Right. But it doesn't leave any room for anybody else.
Yeah, dude, that Medea movie, I love it. I could do bad all by myself with Taraji P. Henson. Oh my God. Like that movie's a perfect example. If you've never seen that movie, I encourage you to watch it. It's a great movie, right? And you see where this woman is doing it, and then she allows someone, right? It's like there's Medea movies, honestly, have so many nice life teaching moments in there. And maybe other people would not agree with me on that, but I like them. But it is that, right? It's like you do things this one way for so long, and then just like you hit a breaking point, and sometimes you're forced to do this. Sometimes it's, out of your control. Sometimes it's like, I think once you start to have that awareness, and then you recognize of like, I can't keep doing shit this way because I'm really actually not getting what I want, then that's when we were like, okay, well, this is where we need to make a change.
It's like, can you embrace that point, right? It's like, can you see the can't as an opportunity instead of a failure?
Yeah.
Like, at least it comes with some discernment.
Yeah.
Right. Of like, I can't keep doing it this way, or I can't keep holding this, or I can't. Right. And can the can't be an opportunity for a shift instead of a sign that you failed.
Right. The can't is actually a beautiful place to be. One of our friends says this often. And it's when she was first saying this, I was just like, what? And then I was like, oh, actually, I like that. I'm going to take that. It is a beautiful place to be because it's showing you what's no longer working for you anymore. Right. And that in the maybe the uncomfortable things or in that new edge that you get to experience of what does work for you and what you can start to work on. And I think it's, a lot of times it doesn't feel like a beautiful place to be because sometimes there's like the hard lesson that comes with it when we've ignored it for a while.
Yeah.
Which is like the part that doesn't feel safe, right? So yeah, I think, incorporating these examples are important, right? Are important for us to share, for Laken and I both to share them, to allow someone to be able to see themselves in both of us in one of our stories and, in your stories when you guys submit the requested reframes. So
if this hit for you and this is something that you identify with, which I would assume that would be a lot of you, and if it resonates with you and there's something specific that you feel like you struggle with asking help around, please hit that request a reframe. Please let us know, like, what is your specific thing that you're struggling with requesting help around, and we'd be happy to talk about that on the show.
Yeah, we'll be happy to break it down. We encourage it. We love to break it down, right? Because I guarantee you something that you're feeling, another woman's feeling, right? Or we both probably have an experience of that. And that's what's special about this is that we get to talk about it and then also be able to take what we've learned from someone else's experience and apply it in our own, right? So, hit that request a reframe. Please like, subscribe, share, do all of the things. I'm trying to think what else, like, is that all?
Yeah, please just remember that it doesn't have to be a solo mission all the time. Right. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
When was the last time you felt truly clear and at peace?
Maybe you've been asking yourself, why can't I just feel peace?
Most of us don't just need another escape. Vacation is great and all, but what we really need is integration.
When's the last time you gave yourself permission to play? As adults, we don't do that enough. And this is to be messy, curious, maybe even a little wild, like the little girl you used to be. She's still here. She's just waiting for you to say it's safe to come out again.
That's why we created Peace, Play, Love. For 7 days in the Costa Rican jungle, luxury meets real life with story work, somatic practices, and nervous system tools that help you not just reset here, but take that peace home with you.
I've been bringing women to Costa Rica for years because this land and the people have been a part of my own healing journey. And all of us have left transformed for the better.
At Peace, Play, Love, we'll slow down together, we'll breathe, we'll meet the guilt, the shame, the exhaustion, and learn how to alchemize them into permission, into softness, into peace that you can actually feel in your body.
This retreat is deeper than a pause. We're not just unplugging you. We are rewiring you.
I've witnessed these women, laugh from the depths of their souls, feel reconnected to who they truly are, tear up from actually taking in a sunset, and watching as their shame, their stress, and fears all float off into the great beyond.
You'll map your next season with clarity and leave with insight to keep your nervous system regulated and your choices aligned long after you return. We keep it small on purpose, just 9 women, each supported through high-touch coaching, sisterhood, and real community.
The women who come, they're do-it-allers. They show up no matter what. They climb the mountain with the weight of the world on their back and a smile on their face, because that's just what they do. But they're looking at this next chapter of their life, and they know that they don't want it to feel like the last 5 did.
You don't have to hold it all anymore. You don't have to keep proving you're okay. This retreat is your safe place to land, and it's your invitation to play again.
There's something magical in this land that helps you find the magic in you. The light turns on, the weight lightens, and from there, you decide what the next chapter will be and who you will be inside of that on your terms. This is the magic of saying yes to you.
If you're craving calm and clarity that sticks, this is your invitation to join us in Costa Rica in June. Come exhale with us and remember who you are beneath the noise.